We have black people in here. I don't think any of you guys were ever slaves. I was never a slave. It's like, white privilege. You were never a slave. I mean, what are you crying about? Nothing even happened to you. You're just making up stuff.
This video was shared with me, and when you hear the video, the one thing you're definitely going to come away with is that not everyone that's in the pulpit preaching should be in the pulpit preaching. Now, this young brother, he seems fairly young, maybe in his 30s, but he says some things, and I don't know if he's racist, and you guys know me. I'm not one that sits and harps on what's racist, that's not me. Sometimes we do tend to call things that aren't racist, but is this one of those instances? Let me let you listen to a little bit of this, and let's just talk about this.
Brought over into slavery, which wasn't right, but they got the gospel when they got here.
Now, this is the good brother, Devin Rogers, of some church in Georgia. I think it's Norcross, Georgia. He's talking about, I think it's called Christian privilege, and he's using an example of slaves being brought over from Africa here to America, which maybe it might not be for him to say, because sometimes folks can inartfully say, with maybe the right intentions, the wrong thing the wrong way.
And you know what? I bet you there's a lot of Africans that if they hadn't have been brought over, not saying it was right, don't misunderstand, not justifying the slavery in the situation, but God, I still believe, used it. And now I'm sure there's a lot of Africans that got the gospel, and they're in heaven right now because they got the gospel.
I can see what he's saying, because the truth of the matter is, first of all, God will use any and everything. Matter of fact, God always does. In spite of the situation, God will take that situation and he can make it, he can use it for his glory. All things, God causes all things to work for the good to those who love him, and as well as cause all things to cause people to love him. So that can happen. But you got to be careful. You have to tread lightly when you talk about this, especially nowadays. Maybe we have some heightened sense of awareness when it comes to race. And so if you're going to tackle this, you might want to make sure that you are wise and use wisdom when you say certain things. And I don't think that he's going to use a lot of wisdom in what he's getting ready to say.
You know, what would be better? For them to have lived their entire life in Africa free, doing their voodoo or whatever.
This is where he's going off the tracks. Well, he was going off the tracks earlier. Doing their voodoo or whatever. Because you don't use that terminology with someone else, another race, maybe in another part of the world who isn't as dark and wouldn't call what they're doing voodoo, right? But let's see if he can redeem himself, if he can kind of correct where he's going, because it's not sounding so good just yet.
And then dying and going to hell, right? Or what happened? And then they go to heaven. They get the opportunity. Now, again, it doesn't justify it. The ends do not justify the means. But this is how God works. This is what God does in the Bible.
Now, it's almost like he's trying to apologize before he gets to the point that he's want to make it. And he's going to go into a rant. He's going to go into a rant. And it's going to appear, you tell me, it's going to appear as though he was using this time as an opportunity to go off on a rant, and it just shouldn't be. Now, how he's framing this, there have been women who have been violated sexually, and they may end up coming to Christ afterwards. But you're not going to say it was a good thing that they were raped or violated, to where, no, you got to be careful about that. Paul did not tell, when dealing with Onesimus, Paul did not tell Philemon or Onesimus, go back there, stay the slave, because it's a good thing, because this will help you come closer to Christ. It's a good thing. No, as a matter of fact, his appeal was to let him go, treat him as a brother. As a matter of fact, what you owe me, I want to use this in regards to him being free. Credit to my accounts as you owe me. So Paul was never justified. So we shouldn't do that. Even, I don't care how many times you say this, not justifying it, not saying the ends justify to me. No matter how many times you say it, it almost comes across as that might be what you're doing. And he's going to get himself in trouble right here.
And we have black people in here. I don't think any of you guys were ever slaves. I was never a slave. It's like, white privilege. You were never a slave. You were never living during the time, unless you're very old, like 60 or 70 maybe, or 80 years old, you're never even living during the time where segregation was a thing in this country.
Makes you wonder, where are you going with this? What scripture is he using?
I mean, what are you crying about? Nothing even happened to you. You're just making up stuff. You can't look at the facts that I was reading and just attribute that to some kind of white privilege. It's not real. Get over it. Quit having all the excuses. Why don't you take some responsibility for your choices, be content with whatever situation you were born into, and make the most of it. God's not limited to your situation. He can do above, what we ask.
There's a passage. There's a passage in Colossians, chapter 4, verse 5, starting here. Conduct yourselves with wisdom towards outsiders, but also insiders, but making the most of the opportunity. Look what he says. Let your speech always be with grace, as though seasoned with salt, so that you will know how you should respond to each person. This young brother doesn't get that passage. This passage is kind of telling him, begging him, this is what you are. His words were not seasoned with salt. There was not a lot of wisdom in what he said. It was though he took an opportunity to rant. He had an issue with people talking about white privilege. Get over it. Get over what? What are you talking about? Be grateful that you're here. That's almost kind of the tone that he's having. Paul tells us what the qualifications of an elder is. One of the qualifications that you be able to teach. I'm not getting that vibe from this brother. Now, listen, I'm not trying to be mean. And again, Lord knows that I'm not one that harps on racism. And do I think that he's racist? No, I think more than anything else, he's not necessarily racist. More than anything, he might be just wrong or ignorant. Now, he could be. I have no idea, but I cannot impugn his heart in that regard. So I don't know. I won't say that. But it is horrible the way he delivered this. Again, you took the time to give a rant during church. Don't do that. If you're going to have it, make sure it connects with the text. And there is no text that I can think of that would. No. You guys are lucky to be over here. You could be over in Africa worshiping some sort of voodoo statue. You could be doing all those other little things. So be grateful that God put you people in slavery and brought you here. None of you guys were slaves before. Listen, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Well, there are people that actually did live through that and that are still alive. So don't dismiss it. Now, should we move forward? Sure. But you can't tell someone how you would do it if it wasn't an issue. Again, I think people sometimes do lean on or cry foul or cry racism too much when their racism isn't there. But how you did it, maybe what it is you're not the person, Brother Devin. You're not the person to give this message. Maybe someone more wiser than you could handle this, or maybe it just shouldn't even be brought up. Makes you wonder what the black people that he's referring to in the audience, makes you wonder what they're thinking. But it also makes you wonder, what was the leadership of this church thinking by allowing Brother Devin to get up and preach? Brother Devin, you didn't nail this one down at all. And I think you just missed an opportunity to sometimes just not say anything, because you don't have to bring that up. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. But for me, I think that was a big swing and a miss on Devin's part. And who knows, maybe he's learned from it. Maybe he's got a lot of pushback. Maybe he hadn't. I don't know. But it'd be hard for me to want to listen to Devin after that.